Hey there, welcome to Tuesday. It's really great to see you. We are in America just experiencing the end of a presidential update on coronavirus, which if you guys took the time to watch, which just sort of ended now if you're watching CNN or NBC or any of those major news networks, touched on several points that I kind of want to chat in with you guys about because we live here in the United States of America, and it's really important that we think about not only where we are, but around the rest of the world too, as we struggle through coronavirus, the shutdown, what it means for our economy, for our health, for our future, and for this election to come. Before we do so, please grab your glass. Today is lemonade, it's a nose bite, you know how we do. Bit of tequila. May today be better than yesterday. May tomorrow be better than today, and may all of your hopes and dreams come true. Cheers, cheers to you. For all my Masonic brothers and all my Eastern Star sisters out there in the world, cheers to you as well. For all of you who are out there who are just joining in, grab a glass, join us. It is never too late to say cheers. Welcome to the neighborhood and welcome to Happy Hour. So, if you were tuning into this whole thing, we just had Donald Trump talk to us about COVID-19 and what the country looks like. And he made some claims. He said that we are doing far better than we ever were before in the rate of coronavirus infections. That's just not true. We have 63% more coronavirus infections this week than we've had the entire time of COVID-19. He did say that he feels it's going to get worse before it gets better, and that is true. Because people are outside not really protecting themselves or other people by not wearing masks in many places. I talked to you guys yesterday about here in Philadelphia where mask wearing is a really big thing and it's been very helpful. But around the rest of the nation, there are people who are fighting not to wear masks. And I'm not really sure where that comes from or why they feel that's a part of their freedom, but it's really silly. It's really silly. I was reminded of a friend of mine who's a heart surgeon, who's an immigrant to America, who said it's very interesting to think about Americans in the standpoint that if you say to an American, this mask will protect you if you wear it, they're very happy to do so. But if you say to an American, this mask will protect other people if you put it on, they then fight you on their freedoms. And I think that we have to get to a point where that's not who we are as a representation of being American, where that's not what is shining most brightly in the room. This idea that we won't protect others, but we will only protect ourselves in our own best interest. So no, Mr. President, coronavirus has not gotten better. In fact, it has gotten much, much worse. The second bit of information they gave us was numbers on how we are testing more people than anyone else in the world. And of course, we're testing more people as a country than anywhere else in the world, simply because we have a huge landmass and the ability to test. So as a developed nation with the ability to test and a very large population with a very big landmass, of course, Mr. President, we are testing a lot more people. But it's not more people per capita. When you look at per capita numbers, we actually are failing miserably. We're not testing very well per capita across the country in comparison with places like Italy or France or even the United Kingdom. Yes, those places are much smaller, and so the populace being tested is much smaller. But per capita, we are doing horrifically. Which is why our numbers are going through the roof, because we actually are unaware that the people who are outside spreading coronavirus don't even know that they have coronavirus and are spreading. We are unaware of our current situation. So what needs to happen is that we need to have a test which is able to come back and tell us whether or not we are positive or negative for coronavirus within 3 days, not a week or longer. Number 4, a point that was really interesting to me that was made by the President of the United States recently is that the antiviral medicine or cure will be out very shortly. We heard that months ago, before we shut down into this particular place. We heard that the cure was here and perfected and already ready to be given out, and that this was going to just go away with the sunlight and the heat, remember? Coronavirus would just disappear, as all things do in the sunlight and heat. Of course, there was no doctor on hand to be able to check the president's facts because, well, Dr. Fauci has no longer been welcome to the Trump campaign team to talk about things because it doesn't help his numbers when he tells the truth, and because Dr. Birx was, in his words, just outside. Further, the American economy is getting ready to go into a bulldoze dive bullnose dive because we have now cut off the financial support and funding for those who are not with work. So that $600 check that many Americans were relying on to be able to keep themselves fed and afloat, well, that stops Friday. And what starts Friday is the ability for people's renters to go and file for evictions. What starts Friday is the moment at which Americans need to pay back all of those bills which were furloughed. So that as we walk into August, we will in America see the largest number of evictions ever. Let me say that again. We in America will see the largest number of evictions ever. So, Mr. President, if you think, as you stated, that you will be judged in November based upon your handling of coronavirus and many other things, then I'm going to ask you to consider how you're handling this now. Because millions and millions of Americans, some of which are people who believed in you, are going to find themselves homeless and on the street and without work or pay or the ability to keep themselves fed, sheltered, and very much alive. And they will have this government to thank for the lack of protection that they have received. They will have this administration to thank for the information, and much of it misinformation, which they believed. And they will have you to thank as an example of how to walk daily through COVID-19, often without a mask, with the most cavalier ideas and words and sentiments. And at the end of the day, when they go to tick the box, they can say, "Thank you, Mr. President, for a job. Well done," can't be said. Now, about voting. In November, we have an election, and I don't care what party you're a part of. When our forefathers in America came together to write the Constitution of the United States, to tell England that we would be a free society where all men were created equal, no matter what their definition of a man was at that time. What they came together to do was to make sure that, number one, we had a free and fair election. That was the principal matter at hand in how we would be able to govern ourselves, with the free and fair election, with the peaceful transfer of power here in these United States. It is a threat which we cannot take lightly when anything might disturb that peaceful transfer of power. So I say to you, Mr. President, if it should come in November that you are not President of the United States, there is no option to choose not to go. And we mustn't, as a population, allow there to be an option for the president, no matter who he is, Democrat, Republican, Independent, whoever it is, to choose not to go because he just isn't ready to. Furthermore, the propaganda that goes around talking about voter fraud, it's bullshit. The Trump administration actually did a wonderful study at the very beginning of it to look into voter fraud so that he could prove to everyone that he had actually won the popular vote. Remember this? What the voter fraud insight told us was that there was really no voter fraud during the Trump election, and that he indeed lost the popular vote. What there was, however, was propaganda that said that there would be voter fraud, and propaganda that said that your vote doesn't actually matter because it's already decided. And so what we know historically is that many people sat at home and chose not to go out to vote at all because they felt the propaganda was real and that their vote didn't matter. Your vote matters. Your belief in this system, in this democracy, in this republic, it matters. You choosing to go and tick the box, it matters. So what can you do now? You can make sure that your ID card is up to date, that your registration is ready, and that you know where you need to go on election day for the poll, and that you have a mask marked specifically for that day, so that there is no reason why you are not there to make your voice, your thoughts, your ideas known. If you feel like you have been left behind, if the coal mines still aren't operating, and you were wondering why it was that this administration never held up their promises to you and didn't tell you that we don't use energy like that anymore. If you're wondering why you can't pay your hospital bills because we damn the idea of socialized medicine, and because we haven't allowed you to advance in your own career because education is so expensive that you can't afford it. If you're wondering why it is that you're stuck inside when every other country in the world has seemed to be able to handle coronavirus and all of the things that have come along with it in a way that allows people to be able to have an economy which works. If you're wondering about those things, if you're wondering how your children will go to school in the fall and mix with other children and come home and not spread coronavirus to you, your opportunity to voice your opinion unfortunately has to wait until November. But in November, I beg you, no matter what the propaganda, no matter what is said, no matter what feelings you have, no matter who you believe in and will vote for, you must vote. Dear Mr. President, your handling of coronavirus has been atrocious. Not because of information that you received which might have been correct or incorrect, but because of your cavalier response to the virus as a mere sniffle. The idea that one could just inject themselves with bleach. This thought that people don't need to wear masks because it's a deterrent to them behaving as normally, which might fix an economy so that you could win a vote. Dear Mr. President, it is time that you act like a president, even for the last few moments you have on stage. Victor, it's so good to see you today. How are you? Mary Elizabeth, Jason, Leroy, Richard, Bruce Lang, how are you? John Harris, Emerson, Bobby, it's so good to see you. Michael Quigley, how are you? Sorrel, Sonia Hurley, good to see you. Dan, how are you? Oh, Hans Gerd, good to see you as well. You guys, this message has been one that is not easy to talk about, I think. And I think when we want to talk about checking up on each other's neighbors, we need to check up on each other, not just in today, but also as we go forward into tomorrow and to the days after that. We this nation that we have built, we the people, need to be able to recognize that there is a time and a place for us to have these conversations about why it's important for us to be present in our own lives. And here in America, we have this interesting gift called Election Day. And I want to say to you that everybody's actual study of voter fraud says it's very little. It's very little. People are, however, deterred from going to the ballots because they are told that their ID cards aren't worth it, or that they should have to mail things in and be counted later, or that they simply don't matter because the election polling place is so far from where they are and they don't have a vehicle to get there. So I'm going to say to you now, whatever it is that you need to do to make yourself ready to vote, please do it now. I believe in this country. I believe in my fellow Americans and in the citizens that I live daily, my neighbors. I believe that people are inherently good when given the option to be. With that, I say don't do anything that I wouldn't do, and if you do, call me. Happy.